Okay, great. I think that's everyone. So thanks for joining this webinar this morning. I'm going to be talking about the top Google Ads trends that you need to know in 2022. Just as we make a start, just to let you know that we're recording this webinar so that you can receive a copy of it afterwards. So that will be sent out to you shortly. And also, please just join in the conversation online. So I would love to get your feedback just using the tag at WebBox Digital on any social channel and the hashtag WebBox. Just a quick intro to myself. So my name is Will. I founded a digital agency called WebBox back in 2008. And since then, we've been working with brands such as the Fever Tree, NHS, Airbus, DS Smith, and St John Ambulance, to name a few, helping them on both web and paid ad campaigns and projects. So really exciting to share some of our knowledge and kind of insights today, but also some of the trends that we're seeing generally across PPC. Now, the plan for this morning's webinar is to just give you a quick few stats in terms of the current landscape of PPC. I then want to talk through those trends that obviously we're all here to listen to. I want to give you our predictions as well for the future, what we think is around the corner when it comes to Google Ads. And then I'm going to give you some further resources as well. We'll then wrap up with a Q&A. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat as I go through this content over the next kind of half hour or so. And I'll do my very best to answer those questions. I've also got two of our paid ad specialists joining me on the call today. So if you've got any more technical questions, hopefully one of us will be able to answer those for you. So just as we look at the digital landscape as it stands today, I just wanted to put some stats on screen and just get some of your input via the chat, if that's okay. So in essence, I've got these two on screen. Okay, so we've got more than a particular number of advertisers use Google Ads PPC, okay? And of Google Ads that get clicked, a certain percentage have buyer intent keywords such as buy, shop, or purchase, okay? So please just join in on the chat. Could you give me two numbers? The first is just a number, the second is a percentage. It'd be really good to see what you think. So how many advertisers use Google Ads PPC? And the second is a percentage of Google Ads that get clicked. How many have buyer intent keywords? So I've got some good numbers coming in. So 65%, 80%. Okay. So good guesses here. 40. Yeah. Okay. So some of this might actually surprise you. So let me reveal these numbers to you. Okay. So there are more than 7 million advertisers using Google Ads at the moment. And of Google Ads that get clicked, 65% of them have buyer intent keywords such as buy, shop, or purchase. Okay, some big numbers there. Just one more just to set the scene. So small to medium-sized companies spend around X per month on average on Google Ads. And a percentage of marketers plan to increase their Google Ads spend over the next 12 months. Okay, so if again, you could use the chat, please. And if you could give me two numbers. So how much on average do people spend? And that's a small to medium-sized company. And the percentage of marketers plan to increase their spend over the next 12 months. Okay, great numbers here. So £1,000, 5,000, 6K, and then some percentages, 50% and 65. Okay. Really good answers there. Thank you. Let me reveal the numbers. So on average, small to medium-sized companies spend around £7,000 per month on Google Ads. and 77% of marketers plan to increase their Google ad spend over the next 12 months, okay? Now, that's a little bit of fun. It sets the scene for the current Google Ads landscape, but actually it puts in perspective why Google Ads is such a powerful marketing platform, and ultimately why we should be aware of some of the trends and latest developments with that platform. So without further ado, let's get into some of this content. I'd love to share it with you. So the first one is changes in keyword matching behavior, okay? So in September last year, Google shared that BERT, which is kind of what Google uses to help understand the context and intent of a search query, is now being applied to keyword matching in Google Ads. So this enables Google to change keyword matching rules for broad and phrase match keywords. Now, broad match and phrase match keywords, identical to a query, will now be preferred in the absence of an exact match keyword. So if you have multiple match types for a keyword that are relevant to a query but not identical, Google will not decide solely based on ad rank, but also on relevancy too. And that's all thanks to BERT. Good old BERT. Now, when Google first announced this, they said it will allow you to get more qualified traffic with fewer keywords. And that's when using broad match with smart bidding in particular will kind of basically have no added benefit to using multiple match types. But interestingly, many advertisers disagree with this. So this is the first trend that we've seen, this kind of announcement from Google and how things are starting to change when it comes to the match types. Now, moving on to another trend is a big shift in automation. Now, too many marketers and agencies, in my opinion, resist machine learning and AI tools because they're scared of maybe being replaced. Shock horror. We certainly wouldn't want that. But at WebBox, we're firm believers in letting AI do what it does best and then letting people do what they do best. So if you're not embracing AI-powered advertising, in my opinion, you need to start that, right? There's just too much opportunity here to pass up. The Google Ads platform is increasingly relying on machine learning to serve ads to the right audience, to also automate bidding and provide automation optimizations. We've used AI to target audiences more accurately, predict click-through rates and conversions, and also to guide decisions around campaign creative and messaging. As an example, Google Smart Bidding can use machine learning to automate bid strategies, reduce advertising costs, and decrease manual input significantly. There's other benefits as well, like reducing costs to serve display and search ads and meeting efficiency, which I'll talk about later, optimizing ads against revenue goals, and also pulling out certain locations for incremental bid adjustments. So there's lots of benefits, and I won't go into them all just now. Then, of course, there are also responsive search ads. These are kind of called RSAs. And with RSAs, all your team needs to do is craft some outstanding variations for headlines and descriptions, then let the platform's algorithms serve up the right combination dynamically based on thousands of different signals that Google have got. And this is a great way to boost performance and improve your ROI. Now, at the end of the day, however, machines cannot replace human ingenuity and creativity. So I want you to take that away from this. Automation is great, but it's not a replacement for people, okay? Now, machines can't gain insight into a person's motivations and challenges the way that people can. And they can't define your unique selling proposition or make decisions on how to communicate it as effectively as you can. So what we're seeing in the campaigns that we run is actually quite mixed results when it comes to changing the bidding strategies to more automated strategies. So we're really encouraging you to test and keep a really close eye on different bidding strategies and how they work for you. Also, just a little top tip, if you are moving towards more automated strategies, then make the most of two things. One is your creative, because you've still got a lot of control over that. And two is your negative keywords, to really make sure that Google's got enough information to target these ads accordingly. So really, the art of embracing automation is kind of knowing what to automate and also what you then need to control. So that's really exciting, and obviously a big shift in the Google Ads platform. Now, the next one is more data in the search term report. So Google announced recently that it's kind of listened to advertisers' call for more information in the search terms report, which actually became more restricted in 2020. Now, this report, which shows advertisers which queries their ads showed for, began to only display terms of a high enough volume with at least like one click. And obviously a lot of advertisers were frustrated by that because it didn't give them the full picture that they needed to see. But now you'll be able to see search terms that meet the threshold volume your search terms gained impressions for, regardless of whether they pulled in a click for you or not. So that's been a really positive step forward and trend that we've seen. Another thing that we're monitoring is actually an announcement to say goodbye to expanded text ads, ETAs. So expanded text ads have been actually a long time go-to for search advertisers. I've already mentioned the shift to responsive search ads, RSAs, as like the default type for starting search campaigns. But due to the fact that Google is retiring expanded text ads, that's obviously elevated the need for RSAs and other types. Now, this will come to a head in June this year, whereby ETAs will simply no longer exist because they'll be completely retired. So it's really now time to start adopting RSAs within your campaigns if you're not doing so already. What this means is RSAs will be the only available search ad type for the search type that you can create aside from call or dynamic ads. Now, important to note, if you've still got ETAs within your campaign, you'll still be able to run them, but obviously advertisers like yourself won't be able to edit them or pause or remove them. So definitely worth shifting over to RSAs. And just the graphic on screen just shows a little bit as to how RSAs apply in the real world based on the kind of information you give it. So I'll share the slide deck with you after for you to look through that in a bit more detail. So the next trend is one which is much talked about, and this is preparing for a future without cookies. Now, Google is transitioning to first-party cookies rather than third-party cookies as our digital advertising world gets more and more strict on privacy and data tracking. Now, just a quick explanation for those that don't know the difference between the two types, first-party and third-party. So first-party cookies are created by the domain itself, and third-party cookies are non-domain created. So they've both got a similar job. They kind of do the same thing, really, but they differ in terms of their source, where they've come from. Now, let me give you a real-life example to kind of put that into perspective. So a first-party cookie could be that I'm shopping on an e-commerce website and I'm looking at some products which interest me. I then add a couple of those products to my cart and I leave the website at that point. Now, when I return to the website, maybe next week, the items are still in my basket, as well as the website is recommending other products which I might be interested in. So that's first-party cookies and how they might work in an e-commerce environment. In terms of third-party cookies, so if I use that same analogy, so I'm shopping on an e-commerce website. Now, when I leave that website to go to various other websites, I can see ads for that original e-commerce site that I was browsing earlier. So it's almost like the site is following me around the web And this is known as retargeting, I'm sure you're aware, but this is a prime example of what a third-party cookie can do. Now, Google says that a privacy-safe, ad-funded internet is possible, and they bulleted the ways how we can transition to a world without cookies. So these are the things which I think we need to focus on as marketers over the coming months. So have a great relationship with your customers, properly use consented first-party data, build deep engagement with customers, be forward-thinking and predictive, commit to new technologies that preserve privacy, and ultimately, make use of Chrome's privacy sandbox. Okay. Now, these are some things which I think we need to really focus in on because it's inevitable that we're going to get to that place where there are no third-party cookies being used. Now, Google's solution to this transition is going to be their privacy sandbox. That's the last point there on the screen. However, this greatly benefits Google, right? Because it's essentially driving people to use more Google products like Google Chrome. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. Now, this topic is always changing. And you might actually be aware that the dates which have been set for this kind of changeover have been deferred. So this is something that I think you need to keep reading into, keep abreast of what's going on in the industry, but this will have a fundamental impact on our campaigns in the near future. Now, the next point and trend I'd like to talk about is the Performance Max campaigns. So for those that haven't heard of this new campaign type, Performance Max is a new goal-based campaign type that allows performance advertisers to access all of their Google Ads inventory from a single campaign. It's designed to complement your keyword-based search campaigns to help you find more converting customers across all of Google's channels like YouTube, display, search, Gmail, and Maps. Now, Performance Max helps you drive performance based on your specified conversion goals, delivering more conversions and value by optimizing performance in real time and across channels using smart bidding. Performance Max combines Google's automation technologies and is empowered by your specific advertising objective. So, for example, that might be for you to hit a particular CPA or ROAS figure, and you can obviously feed that into the campaign. So you might ask, when should I use a Performance Max campaign? So these are often best used when you've got really specific advertising and conversion goals. So for example, driving an online sale or looking for a particular lead form to be submitted. It's also great to use them if you want to maximize the performance of your campaign and you're not limited to which channel the ad appears on. So if you've got a campaign which is really specific to YouTube and YouTube only, then this might not be best. But if you've got, if you don't mind about the actual channel, then these campaigns work great. They're also best used when actually you want to easily access all of Google's advertising channels in just one campaign. So they're quite straightforward to actually set up within the Google Ads platform. Now, there are a few things to note from our experience of these campaigns to date, okay? Because it all sounds really great, but I just want to also be objective and give you maybe the other side. So one of the things that we found is if we're advertising for a well-known brand, Google will automatically favor like branded search terms because it's going to be easy for them to get conversions, right? So if you're a big brand or well-known brand, it will kind of show your ads for more branded search terms than generic search terms because it knows it's going to easily get those conversions. And the results look great in a report, but it is worth stepping back and being pragmatic about that and actually deciding whether that's the best use of your budget or not. So top tip really is to monitor the results really closely and don't just take the kind of CPA numbers on surface value, but to actually look into that a bit more in detail. The next trend we've seen is a shift towards image extensions. So image extensions are one of the most recent types of ad extensions we can use on the Google Ads platform. Now, unlike most other ad extensions, these don't really, these don't rely solely on text to expand your coverage of the results page or the SERP. With image extensions, you can actually use a number of images to accompany your ads to give them a visual component and make them more appealing. And ultimately, for advertisers, you want your ads to stand out on page one. And this is just a bit of a no-brainer to add into your campaign. Now, if we cast our minds back, so if I give you a little bit of history, Google has been working on image extensions for a while now. They tried rolling this out actually back in 2013 and again in 2016 with visual site link extensions. But actually then in 2019, they began testing image extensions, but this was like just in beta mode. And now kind of the tail end of last year is actually become available to all advertisers. And we think actually in terms of a trend, this is going to grow as more imagery gets used within our campaigns. Now, in terms of what happens when someone clicks on that image, it's treated in the same way as if they clicked on the main headline of the ad. So they'll be driven to the ad level kind of campaign landing page, which is why it's important to align your image extensions with your campaign structure. So, you know, when you look at that kind of user flow, what you would have done traditionally with text and making sure that the text is relevant to your landing page, you need to do exactly the same when it comes to your image extensions. Now, the other thing I would just stress on this point is you're given space for up to 20 images. So it's best to use a wide variation of images and basically test and learn from that data. So get an understanding as to which images drive more interaction and clicks than others, and obviously learn and evolve from there. All right. So that's an interesting one. Image extensions, definitely one to incorporate into your campaigns. Now, moving towards the end now. So I've got a point on conversion rate optimization. Now, I just want to address the elephant in the room, okay? I'm fully aware that conversion rate optimization is not specifically a Google Ads trend, but it's becoming increasingly important as we seek to get the best results from our Google Ads campaigns. And in my opinion, it's actually more important than ever based on this shift to automation. Now, for those that don't know, conversion rate optimization is the practice of increasing the percentage of users who perform a desired action on the website. So to kind of head back to my e-commerce example earlier, you might drive 100 people through to your e-commerce website and 2 of them might make a purchase. So you would have a conversion rate of 2%. And obviously as marketers, we want to drive that percentage as high as possible. Now, when you kind of look to define what conversion rate optimization is, a lot of the standard definitions place their focus on conversion percentages, averages, and benchmarks. And all of this just emphasizes like a numerical approach, right? And that comes with a huge downside. So the more you look at spreadsheets full of conversion data points and actions, the less you think of the individuals behind them. So here's like an alternative way to thinking about CRO. So be more holistic and user-centric when you think about CRO. So ultimately, think of this as the process of focusing on understanding what drives, stops, and persuades your users, so you can give them the best user experience possible. And that in turn is what makes them convert and ultimately improves your website conversion rate. So focusing on the final action, the conversion, the sale, the lead, what have you, is obviously important, but in reality, a lot happens before that point. So, you know, there's specific drivers which bring people to your website. There's specific barriers which makes them leave your website. And there's specific hooks which persuade them to convert. Now, when you're working to improve conversions, not every problem is quantifiable. You know, it's not backed with hard numbers and with a clear-cut answer. Now, sometimes, yes, there might be an obvious bug on your website, which is blocking 80% of people from, converting. And, once the developer fixes that, you see a massive spike in conversions. But actually, in other times, your website functions perfectly, and yet people are still not converting. And when this happens, you'll need to dig deeper to understand the kind of why beyond the data you have. And you'll need, in other words, to focus on your users first. Now, conversion rate optimization should always be top of mind, in my opinion, and a topic to regularly discuss to help you grow. And this is why I've included it today, because I think it's really well coupled with your Google Ads campaigns. And then I want to move on to the difference between efficiency and effectiveness, okay? So when you're looking at your Google Ads campaigns, so often you'll just be very numbers driven, and I want to try and make you think a little bit differently today. So too many advertisers, in my opinion, are just dependent upon efficiency. What is efficiency? Ultimately, for most people, it's a low cost per lead, okay? And what I want to kind of encourage us to do is be more effective. What does effective mean? It's campaigns that generate actual new customers that are retained by the business and add revenue to that business. Now, smart advertisers are realizing they need to not just focus on the numbers of leads that their campaigns are generating, but see the bigger picture. Now, we've actually inherited many campaigns here at WebBox that are generating lots, high volumes of poor quality leads at low conversion rates, right? And from a report perspective, that looks great, because you could say to a client, we've generated all of these conversions and look how wonderful that is. But actually, if those leads don't turn into customers, then the campaign is generating the wrong type of leads. So this is kind of almost doing a bit of a disservice to our clients. Now, to win, we need to keep the customer at the top of their minds and the center of their PPC campaigns, okay? Now, doing so means training algorithms so they know what type of conversion actually results in a new customer, not just a low quality lead. Now, with Google Ads, I guess there are two options here. So you can either directly integrate your CRM with Google Ads, which is probably the most common, or alternatively, if direct integration is not possible, then you could maybe pass data back to Google Ads manually. But interestingly, your higher quality leads are going to probably be the most expensive ones, if we're honest. However, as they kind of become customers and generate revenue, the overall customer acquisition costs will trend downwards. So if you're currently working with an agency, or maybe you manage your Google Ads campaign in-house, and you tend to report on figures such as cost per acquisition, then I'd really kind of encourage you today to consider the bigger picture and aim for effectiveness over efficiency. Now, that's obviously easier said than done, and I think that's probably a topic for another day. But it's changing our mindset really to look at effectiveness instead. Now, I said at the start, I just want to give a few of our predictions as well for the future, because there have been so many changes with Google Ads recently, and things are going to carry on evolving. So as we work in this industry kind of day in, day out, we've put a few predictions together as to what you might see in the coming year or so. So the first one is a keyword-less world. I can never say that word. So while the keyword is still the foundation of PPC strategies, we do anticipate their role will deteriorate and it'll lose its place in digital advertising in due course. So Google retiring the broad match modifier option last year, that's kind of like almost just the beginning of this. So similar to what happens in performance max campaigns, we'll continue to see the keyword disappear. Instead, advertisers or machines will target based on signals from the system and serve ads to the audience that has a higher probability of converting. But remember what I said earlier, you need to really focus then on your ad creative and negative keywords and other things which you still have control over. Now, the second is this kind of ad creative that I've just talked about. So with the shift to automation, gaining significant traction, ultimately we can't stop that from happening. So we need to still have control over some things. And one of these aspects is the ad creative. So it's going to be more important than ever that we test different variations and we see what works for that particular campaign. So this really needs to be test all the time, and then pivoting based on the results that you get. The other trend is obviously, as we kind of start to maybe phase out third-party cookies, is actually making sure that we get our first-party data right. So as mentioned, Google, but also Facebook and Apple and others are limiting the data available to digital advertisers. Now, it's perfectly legal, ethical, and acceptable to use first-party data, assuming that you've got people to accept your cookies policy, right? So this is data that your marketing team is likely already collecting, but it's important that you become reliant on first-party data from maybe forms on your website, for example, with the imminent shift away from kind of third-party data in the near future. So don't have a strategy which is completely reliant on third-party cookies, because that rug is going to be pulled from under your feet, in due course. And then the other kind of prediction is, you need to kind of, I guess, understand your place in the digital advertising landscape. So you need to build that relationship between you as a manager of these campaigns and Google as a machine, and then get that in the right place to continue to drive the same performance that you're typically driving with the keyword and kind of manual approach. So this is not a case of people are replaced with this whole shift to automation, but we need to understand where we add value and focus our time and efforts there. So there are a few of our predictions for what we think is around the corner when it comes to Google Ads and PPC in general. But also I wanted to leave you with some other resources. So after this webinar, I'm going to send out a copy to another one of our kind of PDF downloads, which is the 7 tips to help you get started with Facebook ads and talking about kind of strategies and tips when it comes to Facebook ads. So I will send you a copy of that PDF. Hopefully you find that useful as we look at PPC in general terms. And I also wanted to kind of just put an offer forward as well, which is really simple. If you're currently running a Google Ads campaign and maybe you feel like it's not, performing as well as it could be, then please do just get in touch. You can go to that link and you can request a free audit of your campaign. So one of our team will happily look over your campaign and simply just provide some tips and advice and guidance on what you're doing at the moment and how you could take that forward and improve it. So if you'd like to take that up, please just go to that URL and request a free PPC audit. Now I'm going to move into a time of Q&A. So just give me a moment whilst I just open up the chat, and I'll just see if there's any questions here. So let's have a look. Okay, so I've got one sent direct here. So it says, I've been using Google Ads for a while now, but it's struggling to use all of my budget. Okay. Okay, good question. So I guess what you're saying there is you want it to utilize all of the budget that you're giving it. So we do find that in some instances, campaigns might have a particular budget set, and you want to utilize that, right? And for whatever reason, the platform is not spending all of that budget. We find in more instances than not, that might be because the targeting is too niche, or maybe you're using the wrong bidding strategy, for example. So there's a number of kind of reasons that could be, and that might actually be one where we need to look into your particular campaign to give an answer. So yeah, in this instance, if you want to maybe kind of go through that kind of audit process, we'd be happy to look at that campaign and give you some tips and advice on how to get it to spend the most. Just something whilst it's on my mind is, I guess, that's a common thing as well. If you're a charity listening to this and you make use of the Google Ads grant, that's one of those great opportunities for you to show ads through the Google platform as a charity, but one which is often very difficult to spend all of the grant that they give you. So that's a common thing that we come across as well. So definitely something we can help with. If we could maybe just have a look at your campaign, that would be fantastic. Okay, so let's have a look here. So we've got a question here. What do you think of enhanced conversions? Okay, what I'm going to do, that's from Kirsty. Kirsty, I'm going to bring in one of my team, if that's okay. So I've got on the call Tom and Cara. They're two of our paid ad specialists. So Tom or Cara, would you be happy to look at that question? What do you think of enhanced conversions?
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Tom, paid ad specialist at WebBox. Enhanced conversions is a new thing that Google's brought in, which I think you can set up via Tag Manager. And from what I understand, it is basically trying to connect the link between, obviously with the loss of data and cookies, it's trying to connect the link between, basically link that together. So in theory, once that's set up, you should have a clearer view of how many conversions you're getting, because you're going to be losing sight of some of those due to loss of data. So yeah, enhanced conversion is basically a feature Google's bringing out to help to plug the gap, basically. So if you do set that up, yeah, it's only going to give you better insights into how many conversions you're generating and reporting.
Great. Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Tom. Really helpful. Thank you. Let me just check the chat to see if there's any others. Okay, so I've got another question here. So it says, what are the benefits of integrating your CRM with Google Ads? Tom or Cara, is that something you could pick up as well?
Yeah, so
I've gone, Cara. So no, go on.
Hello. Yeah, so really the purpose of that is it kind of ties in the data from Google. So you're tying back the revenue to your certain campaigns and keywords. So it kind of allows you to look at the insights of the campaign of what's working and what the money drivers are for certain keywords and campaigns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great, thank you, Carl. So yeah, ultimately it's more accurate reporting, isn't it? And giving Google more data. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I'm just scrolling up the chat as well. Sorry, I missed a question earlier when we were looking through the stats in terms of whether that data was B2B or B2C. There's basically a mixture in there to answer that question. So some of those stats are based on B2C searches and others are more B2B. So yeah, it's not one or the other, sorry, in that instance. Okay, great. So I think that's all the questions we've had. So yeah, just wanted to kind of wrap up by saying a big thank you for joining us on this webinar this morning. I hope you found it really helpful and insightful in terms of going through some of these Google Ads trends and understanding where the industry is moving to. To reiterate, if you want us to have a look at your current Google Ads campaigns and provide a free audit, then please do feel free to get in touch. We'd be more than happy to help you there. But for now, just wanted to say thank you and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. So yeah, thanks for joining, and we'll be in touch shortly with the recording. All right, thanks a lot.